The great alien station floated in silence among the stars. Its walls were made of black metal shining like frozen glass. Thousands of ships came and went every day, bringing traders, warriors, and families. But in one forgotten corner of the station, there was a gate no one liked to look at. It was called the Gate of Returning. Every week that gate opened, and from it stepped children who had been tested, tried, and rejected. These were not normal children. They were chosen by alien families through a ritual, meant to see if they were strong, useful, or worthy of adoption. But when a child failed, when she could not meet the standards of her people, she was sent back through the gate with one word stamped on her record: broken. On this day, the crowd gathered, whispering in low voices. The gate began to glow with pale blue light. Cold mist spread across the floor. From the mist walked a young girl. She looked no older than 10 human years, her body thin, her skin pale with glowing patterns that pulsed faintly like dying stars. She was beautiful in a strange way, but her eyes told another story. They were wide, dark, and heavy with sadness, as if she carried the weight of 7 failures. 7 families had taken her. 7 families had sent her back. To the people of the station, this was final proof. The child was cursed, flawed, unfit. No one wanted her. No one dared to speak for her. She was simply another broken one. The officials at the gate didn't even hide their boredom. They read her record aloud, their voices echoing through the chamber. Child designation: Lyra. Tested and rejected by House Uranus, House Veyron, House Teth, House Kor, House Damus, House Shun, and House Falari. Status: broken. The words struck like knives. Around the chamber, alien merchants and travelers shook their heads. Some muttered 7 times, a record. She must be dangerous. Others whispered, her kind never survives long. Best to keep away. Lyra stood silent. She did not cry. She had learned long ago that tears only made the families colder. But inside her heart a storm raged. She remembered the tests, the endless hours of being watched, measured, judged. She remembered the faces of the families when she tried her best, how their smiles turned to frowns, how they sent her away as if she were a broken toy. Now she was back where all broken ones ended, alone, useless, forgotten. The chamber lights flickered for a moment as she walked forward. No one noticed, or perhaps no one cared. The guards simply pushed her toward the line of other rejected children. They all stood in silence, their eyes empty, waiting to be sent to the lower levels of the station where the broken were kept. But something was different this time. In the distance, the sound of engines roared. A ship was docking in the human sector of the station. Humans were rare visitors here, often seen as strange, emotional beings. The aliens considered them reckless, too quick to act on feeling rather than logic. Yet their ships always carried a presence that turned heads. Whispers rose in the chamber. A human has come. Why here? What business do they have with the council? Lyra lifted her head for the first time. Through the mist and the crowd, she could see the tall figure of a man stepping out of the docking corridor. His clothes were plain compared to the shining armor of the aliens, but his walk carried strength. His eyes, sharp and alive, scanned the chamber slowly. For a moment those eyes met hers. Lyra felt her chest tighten. No one had ever looked at her like that before, not as a burden, not as a mistake, but as if she mattered. It lasted only a second before he looked away, but something inside her stirred. The officials ignored the human, busy stamping her record with the seal of broken. The echo of the metal stamp filled the hall like a hammer blow. The child was officially discarded. The crowd began to leave. To them, the story was over. Another broken child, nothing new. But the man did not turn away. He stayed, watching the thin girl with the glowing patterns on her skin. The chamber lights flickered again, brighter this time, almost as if the station itself was reacting to her presence. Some guards noticed and frowned, but quickly dismissed it as a power surge. Lyra lowered her eyes, afraid to draw attention. She had learned that strange things often happened around her, and those strange things were part of the reason families sent her back. But the man kept watching, and in his eyes something burned, a question, a curiosity, perhaps even a sense of destiny. The chamber doors began to close. The other children were being led away. Lyra turned one last time toward the crowd. She expected to see the same cold stares of judgment she had always seen, but instead she saw him again, the human. He was still there, still watching, and his expression was not disgust or fear. It was something else, something she did not yet understand. And though she did not know it, this was the moment her life would change forever. The girl who had been rejected by 7 families stamped as broken was about to discover that one human did not believe in broken things. He believed in second chances. The station was always noisy. Voices of traders mixed with the sound of machines, footsteps, and engines. But when a human ship docked, the noise always changed. People whispered, doors shut faster, and eyes turned to watch with quiet suspicion. Humans were rare here. They did not belong to the great houses, nor to the ancient alien councils. They were seen as outsiders, emotional, reckless, unpredictable. But they were also known for something else. They were stubborn, and once a human made a choice, no council or army could easily stop them. Captain Elias stepped onto the station floor with slow, steady steps. He was tall, his hair touched with silver, his eyes sharp and restless. He wore no grand armor, only the uniform of a starship captain, simple, worn from long journeys. Yet when he walked, people moved aside. There was something in the way he carried himself, something that said he was not here to bow or beg. The air seemed to grow heavier as he entered the chamber where the rejected children were kept. Most of the crowd turned away, pretending not to notice him. A few whispered warnings to each other. Why is he here? Humans bring trouble. Elias ignored them. His gaze swept across the line of children, thin, quiet, lifeless. Most stared at the ground, their spirits broken long ago. But one child made him pause. She stood a little apart from the others, her skin marked with faint glowing patterns. Her small hands were clenched at her sides, but her eyes, dark and heavy with sorrow, rose to meet his. For a moment, the noise of the station seemed to vanish. It was just her and him, locked in a silent question. The council official noticed where Elias was looking and gave a short, bitter laugh. Do not waste your eyes on that one. She is called Lyra. 7 houses have tested her. 7 houses have rejected her. She is broken. The word broken echoed in Elias's mind. He looked again at the child, and though her head lowered now, he had already seen what the others could not. She was not empty. There was something alive inside her, something waiting to be seen. He stepped closer. The crowd stirred nervously. She is still standing, Elias said calmly. His voice was quiet, but it carried through the hall. That does not look broken to me, the official frowned. You do not understand, human. This is not about standing or falling. She failed every trial. She is unstable, dangerous. She will bring ruin to whoever takes her. Elias's eyes narrowed. He had heard warnings before, about battles he should not fight, places he should not go, people he should not trust. And yet, every time he followed his own path, not theirs, he crouched slightly, bringing his face to the child's level. She did not move, only watched him with quiet fear. For years she had been tested and rejected, called unworthy, unwanted. She expected the same words from him. Instead, he asked softly, "What is your name?" Her lips trembled. Few had ever asked her name, not since the tests began. Lyra, she whispered. Lyra, he repeated as if the name itself mattered. That's a strong name. The chamber grew tense. The alien officials exchanged uneasy glances. One of them stepped forward quickly. Captain Elias, do not make this mistake. The law is clear. Once marked as broken, a child cannot be chosen again. If you claim her, you challenge the council itself. Elias stood tall again, his eyes hard now. Maybe your laws are wrong. Gasps spread through the crowd. To question the council was dangerous, but to do so openly in their own hall was madness. Still, Elias did not flinch. He looked at Lyra once more. You are not broken, he said, his voice steady, certain. You are alive. That is enough. Lyra's heart pounded in her chest. No one had ever spoken to her like this. Every family had only looked for flaws. Every voice had called her useless. But this human, he spoke as if she was already worthy. The official slammed his staff against the floor. This cannot stand. She is forbidden. You will face punishment if you take her. But Elias only smiled faintly. Then let punishment come. He extended his hand toward Lyra. The hall went silent. Even the humming of the machine seemed to pause. The child stared at his hand. Her own hands shook. She had been offered hands before. Hands that pulled her into cold homes. Hands that pushed her out when she failed. But this hand, it did not command. It did not judge. It waited. Slowly, carefully, Lyra reached out. Her small fingers touched his palm, and in that moment the lights above them flickered again, brighter than before. The council officials froze, unease crossing their faces. Something about the girl was not just unusual, it was powerful. Elias did not pull back. He closed his hand gently around hers. "From now on," he said firmly, "you walk with me." Whispers broke out in the crowd. Madness. "The human will be destroyed. He does not know what he has taken." But Elias ignored them all. He led Lyra forward past the shocked guards, past the officials who dared not move. And for the first time in her life, Lyra walked without being pushed. As the chamber doors closed behind them, one thought burned in her heart. Maybe she was not broken after all. What she did not yet know was that this choice would shake the laws of the entire galaxy. The council chamber was rarely quiet. Normally it was filled with voices. Leaders speaking, guards shouting, merchants arguing. But now silence ruled. The reason was simple. A human had just broken one of the oldest laws in the galaxy. Captain Elias stood in the center of the great hall, his hand holding Lyra's small fingers. She stood beside him, trembling, unsure if this was safety or another cruel test. Around them, alien officials stared in disbelief. The audience that had come to watch another broken child returned, now found themselves watching history unfold. An elder with gray skin and silver eyes rose from the council table. His voice carried the weight of centuries. "Captain Elias, do you understand what you have done?" Elias did not release the girl's hand. "I understand enough," he replied. "I chose her." Gasps echoed across the chamber. Some laughed nervously, others shook their heads. Choosing a child marked as broken was not simply strange, it was forbidden. No one had ever done it. The elder's voice grew sharper. 7 houses tested this child. 7 houses rejected her. Our law is clear. Once rejected, a child cannot be chosen again. To do so is to invite chaos. Elias's jaw tightened, but his voice stayed calm. "Maybe your law is wrong. Maybe you have forgotten what it means to see life as more than a list of tests." The room buzzed with anger. Counselors slammed their hands on the table. One shouted, "Arrogant human. You have no right to question our traditions." Another sneered, "This is why your species is distrusted, reckless, sentimental." But Elias did not move. His hand stayed firm around Lyra's. She looked up at him, confused, her mind still reeling from the moment he had spoken her name with respect. Could he really mean it? Did he truly want her? The elder leaned forward. "Do you claim her?" The hall went silent again. Even the guards stopped shifting their weapons. Everyone waited for the human's answer. Elias's voice was clear. "Yes, I claim her." It was as if thunder had struck the chamber. The sound of outrage exploded. Some officials shouted for his arrest. Others demanded the child be taken away at once. Guards rushed forward, weapons raised, but Elias stepped in front of Lyra, shielding her with his body. "Touch her," he warned, his eyes cold, "and you will go through me." The guards froze. Something in his tone made them hesitate. Humans were not the strongest species nor the most advanced, but they had a reputation for one dangerous trait. They did not give up. To fight a human like Elias was to face a man who would not stop until his last breath. The elder lifted his hand, signaling the guards to hold back. His voice was calm, but beneath it was a threat. "Captain Elias, you challenge not just this council but the laws of the galaxy. If you walk this path, you will have no allies, no protection. You will be hunted." Elias's reply came without hesitation. "Then hunt me." Lyra's heart pounded. She could hardly believe what she was hearing. This man, this stranger from a species everyone mocked, was defying the galaxy's rulers for her. For a child they all called broken. The elder narrowed his silver eyes. "Why? Tell us why you risk everything for one discarded child." Elias finally turned to Lyra. He studied her glowing patterns, her frightened eyes, her thin shoulders carrying years of rejection. Then he faced the council again. "Because she is not broken," he said simply. "You only call her that because you do not understand her. You fear what is different. But I do not." The words hit the chamber like a storm. Many shouted in fury. Some sneered, dismissing his words as human foolishness. But a few, just a few, fell silent, their expressions thoughtful. The elder slammed his staff onto the floor. The sound echoed like a drumbeat. "Very well. You have chosen. Then hear this. The child is yours. But from this moment forward, you are no longer welcome in our worlds. The law will not protect you. The houses will not trade with you, and if she brings danger, it will be on your head alone. Elias nodded once. So be it. With those words, he turned and led Lyra out of the chamber. The crowd parted, some spitting insults, others staring in awe. The girl walked beside him, her small steps uncertain, her hand trembling in his. She could hardly process what had just happened. As the great doors closed behind them, the chamber erupted into chaos. Voices clashed like weapons. Arguments rose like fire. The decision would spread across the galaxy within hours. Some would laugh at the foolish human, some would rage at his defiance, and some would whisper that maybe, just maybe, the human had seen something they had not. On the docking platform, Lyra finally spoke in a small, hesitant voice. Why did you do that? Why did you choose me? Elias stopped walking. He looked down at her, his face calm but his eyes burning with a quiet fire. Because you are worth choosing, he said. Even if no one else can see it. Her throat tightened. For years, she had been told she was worthless. But now a single sentence from a human broke through all those voices. For the first time, she dared to believe there might be another truth. Behind them, the council watched in anger and disbelief. Ahead of them, a galaxy full of enemies waited. And between them stood one human and one child, walking together into a future that would change everything. The doors of the alien council chamber closed behind them. But the weight of that moment followed Elias and Lyra all the way to the docking bay. Every step echoed in the silent corridor. Guards watched but did not interfere. Whispers ran through the halls like sparks. The human claimed a broken one. He defied the law. When they reached Elias's ship, the doors slid open with a hiss. Lyra hesitated at the edge of the ramp. She had stepped into many homes before, but each one had thrown her back out. Homes meant tests. Homes meant failure. Homes meant the end. Elias noticed her hesitation. He didn't pull her forward or force her. He simply said, "This is your choice, Lyra. No one can push you in. But if you walk in, you stay because you want to." Her small hands tightened into fists. She had never been given a choice before. Slowly, almost in disbelief, she climbed the ramp and stepped inside. The ship was not like the shining alien halls she knew. It was simple, full of worn metal walls and humming machines, but it felt alive in a way the council chambers never had. The air smelled of oil, steel, and something warm, like baked bread. It was strange yet comforting. Elias walked ahead, pointing to the rooms. "This is the mess hall. That's the med bay. My quarters are there, and now." He paused, opening a door to a small cabin. Inside was a narrow bed, a blanket, and a single light glowing softly. "This is yours," Lyra froze. She had never had a room of her own. She had slept in testing halls and cold chambers on floors. To see a bed waiting only for her, it felt unreal. She looked up at him, suspicion flickering in her eyes. "Is this another test?" Elias shook his head. "No tests, just rest." For a long time, she stood in silence. Finally, she whispered, "What if I fail?" His answer was simple. "Then fail. And try again." That's what we humans do. Something in her chest tightened. No one had ever said failure was allowed. That night, Lyra lay awake in the small bed. The blanket was soft, the ship hummed gently, and yet her heart could not settle. She kept waiting for the door to open, for someone to drag her out, for the words she had always heard. "You are broken. You do not belong." But the door never opened. The only sound was the steady hum of the engines, like a heartbeat keeping her safe. Days passed. Elias treated her not as a burden, but as a crew member. He gave her tasks, simple ones at first. "Hold this light. Push that button when I tell you." When she made mistakes, he never scolded. He only showed her again, patient, steady. Lyra began to laugh quietly when she got things right. The sound surprised even her. It had been years since laughter had left her lips. But strange things also began to happen. When she touched the control panels, the screens flickered brighter. When she walked past the engines, they hummed smoother. Once, while carrying a tray of tools, she stumbled, and the tools floated for a second before dropping. Elias noticed every moment. He said nothing at first, only watched with thoughtful eyes. But one evening, as they ate a simple meal of bread and soup, he spoke. "Lyra, has this happened before?" "Things moving. Lights reacting to you." She froze, her spoon halfway to her mouth. Fear shadowed her face. "Yes," she whispered. "It always happens. That's why they sent me back. They said I was unstable." Dangerous. Elias leaned forward, his voice calm. What if it isn't danger? What if it's power? Her eyes widened. Power? Different doesn't mean broken, he said firmly. It means you don't fit their boxes. But maybe their boxes are too small. His words struck her deeper than any insult ever had. For the first time, someone was not afraid of what she could do. He was curious. That night, as she lay in her bed, Lyra touched the wall gently. The lights flickered, pulsing softly like they were answering her heartbeat. She smiled for the first time without fear. But outside the ship, danger was building. The Council had already sent warnings across the stars. The human has broken the law. He has taken a broken one. He must be stopped. Other ships began to watch Elias's vessel following from a distance. Messages of threat reached him, but he deleted them with calm defiance. Inside the ship, however, a bond was growing. Lyra followed Elias everywhere, asking questions, helping with tasks. She learned about Earth, about humans, about a world where failure was part of learning, not the end. One evening she asked quietly, "Why do humans see things differently?" Elias looked at the stars through the viewport. Because we were small once, weak. Every stronger species told us we would fail, but we refused to stay broken. We kept standing back up. That is who we are. Lyra listened, her heart beating faster. Maybe she too could stand back up. Maybe she too could be more than what they said. As the ship drifted into the dark sea of stars, the bond between them grew. Not of blood, not of species, but of something deeper. A bond beyond logic, beyond fear, a bond beyond species. And though neither spoke it aloud, both felt the same truth. This was only the beginning. The stars outside the viewport burned like cold fire, endless and silent. For days, Elias's ship had drifted through open space away from the alien station. Inside, the hum of the engines was steady, and the corridors echoed faintly with Lyra's small footsteps as she explored her new home. But peace never lasts long when laws are broken. The first warning came as a message, transmitted in sharp bursts of code. The Council's emblem glowed red on the screen, a circle broken by a line, the mark of judgment. Elias opened it without expression, but Lyra hovered nervously at his side. A voice filled the cockpit, deep and cold. Captain Elias of the human vessel Dauntless, you have violated Galactic Law 47-9. The child you have taken is marked broken. She must remain unclaimed. Return her immediately or you will face consequences. This is your only warning. The message ended, the red emblem fading back into static. Silence pressed on the cockpit walls. Lyra's heart pounded. Her hands trembled. They will come for me, she whispered. Elias glanced at her, his face calm. They already came for you, Lyra, 7 times, and each time they left you with nothing. I won't do the same. But the law is not the same as right, Elias said firmly. Remember that. The child fell silent. She wanted to believe him, but fear gnawed at her. The Council's voice had been so cold, so certain. They had the power of fleets, of armies, of ancient houses. Elias had only one ship. How could he stand against them? The second warning came in person. A patrol ship intercepted them near the edge of a quiet star system. It was sleek, silver with the markings of House Veyron, one of the families that had rejected Lyra. They hailed the Dauntless. On the screen appeared a tall alien captain, his eyes sharp with disdain. Human, he sneered. You play a dangerous game. That child belongs to no one. Return her before you doom yourself. Elias sat calmly in the pilot's chair. She is not property to be returned. She is a life. And I chose her. The alien's eyes narrowed. You dare claim what 7 houses have discarded? Fool, do you not see what she is? She is a danger to every ship, every system. Already the Council speaks of outlawing your kind for this insult. Behind Elias, Lyra shrank into the shadows, her small body trembling. She could not bear the way the alien's voice cut into her, the way he spoke as if she were poison. She had heard it all before. Broken, worthless, dangerous. Elias leaned forward, his voice steel. Then outlaw me. But she stays. The alien captain's face twisted with fury. Very well. Do not say you were not warned. The screen went black and the patrol ship veered away, but not before sending a final pulse of code. Elias studied the signal. His eyes darkened. They've marked us. Marked? Lyra asked softly. He turned to her. It means they've sent our location to every house, every patrol. Every hunter who cares to follow. From now on we'll be chased. Lyra's chest tightened. Her voice cracked. Because of me? Elias shook his head. He crouched so his eyes met hers. No, Lyra, because of them. Because they fear what they do not understand. But I don't fear you, she swallowed hard. No one had ever spoken to her like this. Yet fear still coiled inside her like a shadow. That night, as the Dauntless drifted quietly, Lyra sat alone in her small cabin. Her fingers traced the glowing marks on her skin. The marks pulsed faintly as if alive. She remembered how the machines flickered when she touched them, how tools floated when she stumbled. Perhaps the houses were right. Perhaps she was dangerous. She pressed her hands over her eyes and whispered, "Maybe he'll be hurt because of me." Unseen, the lights in her cabin pulsed brighter, answering her sorrow. Elias found her there, sitting on the floor, shaking. He didn't speak at first. He simply sat beside her in silence. Finally, he said, "When I was a boy on Earth, I failed 1,000 times. Couldn't lift what others could. Couldn't run as fast." People laughed. Said I'd never make it as a captain. She looked at him surprised. "But you did," he nodded. "Because failure isn't the end, Lyra, it's only the next step. You've been told you're broken because you are different. But different is exactly what the galaxy needs." Her eyes burned with unshed tears. "And if I hurt you? Then I'll stand back up," he said softly. "That's what humans do." The bond between them deepened in that moment. Fear did not vanish, but hope began to grow. But beyond the viewport, shadows gathered. More patrols, more hunters, more ships whispered of the human who had defied the council. Some came for money, others for honor, and some for fear of what the child might become. The warnings had been given. The threats had been made. Now the chase was about to begin, and Lyra, once called broken, would soon discover just how far one human would go to protect her. The Dauntless moved quietly between the stars, but Elias knew silence would not last. Once a ship was marked by the council, it was only a matter of time before hunters came. The galaxy was wide, but the houses had long arms and sharp eyes. Lyra stood near the viewport, her small hands pressed to the glass. Stars streaked past as the ship drifted into deep space. She should have been amazed, but fear clouded her gaze. "They'll come," she whispered. "They always come." Elias adjusted the ship's controls, his voice steady. "Let them. We'll be ready." But even as he spoke, an alarm sounded. A red light pulsed across the cockpit. The tracking system showed 3 ships behind them closing fast. Lyra's breath caught. "Hunters?" "Yes," Elias said. His jaw tightened. "House Veyron!" They didn't waste time. Moments later, the comm screen lit up. The alien captain who had sneered at them before now returned with a cruel smile. "Human, this is your last chance. Hand over the broken one, and we will let you crawl back to your dying world. Refuse, and you will not survive the night." Elias didn't even blink. "Try me." The screen went dark, and at once the hunters fired. Beams of light cut through space, striking near the Dauntless. The ship shuddered, alarms blaring. Lyra stumbled, clutching the edge of the chair. "Hold on," Elias shouted, pulling the controls. The Dauntless spun sharply, engines roaring. Laser fire blazed past them, lighting the darkness like falling stars. Lyra's heart raced. She had never felt such speed, such danger. The ship twisted, dove, climbed, but the hunters stayed close, their weapons raining fire. Fear clawed at her chest. She pressed her hands over her ears, but the sound of the alarms and the shaking of the ship only grew worse. "They'll catch us. They'll kill you because of me," she cried. Elias's voice cut through the chaos. "Listen to me, Lyra. You are not the reason we fight, they are. Never blame yourself for their fear." But his words could not silence the storm inside her. Guilt and terror twisted together. She wished she could disappear. She wished she could be normal like the other children. She wished, and then it happened. The lights flickered. The control panels glowed brighter. The engines surged with power Elias hadn't commanded. Around Lyra, the very air seemed to hum. The next volley of enemy fire never reached the ship. The beams bent, curving away as if the stars themselves pushed them aside. Elias's eyes widened. He glanced at Lyra. She was standing now, trembling, her eyes glowing faintly, the strange marks on her skin pulsing like fire. "Lyra," he whispered. The hunters tried again, firing in unison. Once more the shots veered off, missing by impossible margins. Frustration filled the comms as the alien captain barked orders. Elias understood now. Lyra was not unstable. She was not broken, she was extraordinary. But the effort was draining her. She swayed on her feet, clutching her chest, her breath ragged. "Enough," Elias said, rising quickly. He caught her before she fell. "You don't have to do this alone." She shook her head weakly. "If I stop, they'll hurt you." "Then let them try," Elias said, fierce and steady. "I've been fighting battles my whole life. I'm not afraid of theirs." He carried her back to the chair and returned to the controls. With her strange energy shielding them, he pushed the ship to its limits. Engines roared, fire trails blazing behind them as the Dauntless darted between asteroids, weaving through the deadly field. The hunters followed, but their shots kept curving off course. Frustration turned to rage. One ship clipped a rock and exploded in a flash of light. Another lost control in the debris. The last chased them doggedly, but Elias twisted the ship in a daring maneuver, pulling sharply upward and around. The hunter followed and flew straight into the asteroid wall. Silence returned. Only the hum of the Dauntless remained. Elias let out a slow breath, his hands steady on the controls. He turned to Lyra, who lay pale and weak in the chair. Her marks glowed faintly still, but dimmer now. "You saved us," he said quietly. Her eyes opened slowly. "I didn't mean to. It just happened." He smiled faintly. "That's how power works sometimes. It shows up when you need it most." Tears slid down her cheeks. "But this is why they sent me back. This is why they called me broken." Elias shook his head. His voice was strong, unshakable. "No, Lyra. They called you broken because they were afraid. You are not broken. You are more than they can imagine." Her tears kept falling, but her heart felt lighter. For once, her power had not brought rejection. It had brought survival. Elias adjusted the course, guiding the ship into the safety of a quiet nebula. The stars outside glowed faintly through the mist, painting the cockpit in soft colors. As Lyra drifted into sleep, Elias sat beside her, watching the stars. He knew this was only the beginning. The council would not stop. The houses would not forgive. They had seen what Lyra could do, and now they would hunt her harder than ever. But Elias also knew something else. They had underestimated humans for centuries. They thought laws and fear would be enough to stop him. They were wrong, because Elias had made a choice, and humans did not abandon what they chose. And somewhere deep inside the nebula, the galaxy itself seemed to hold its breath, waiting for what came next. The nebula glowed faintly around the Dauntless, painting the ship in soft blue and violet light. Inside, silence rested for the first time after the chaos of battle. The hunters were gone, but the danger was far from over. Elias sat in the cockpit, his eyes scanning the endless stars. His hand rested near the ship's worn controls, but his thoughts were on the sleeping child in the small cabin behind him. Lyra had pushed herself beyond her limits. She had bent energy, shielded the ship, saved them both. And yet, instead of pride, she carried fear. Fear that her power was the same reason everyone had called her broken. But Elias knew better. He had seen strength where others saw danger. He had seen hope where others saw failure. And he would not let the galaxy take that away from her again. When Lyra finally woke, the nebula light shimmered softly on her face. She blinked in confusion, then sat up slowly. The marks on her skin still glowed faintly, but weaker now, like embers after a storm. She looked around nervously. Did they catch us?" she whispered. Elias appeared at the door, leaning against the frame. A faint smile tugged at his lips. "No, they won't be catching us anytime soon." "You saved us, Lyra." Her eyes widened. "I saved us?" He nodded. "Your power shielded us. Without you, we would have been ash in space." Her chest tightened. Tears burned at the edges of her eyes. "But that's what they hated. That's why they sent me back. They said I was unstable." Elias crouched so their eyes met. His voice was calm but unshakable. "They called you unstable because they couldn't control you. They called you dangerous because they were afraid. But I don't see danger, Lyra. I see a child who is stronger than anyone has ever admitted." She stared at him, trembling. "And if I lose control? What if I hurt you? Then I'll stand back up," Elias said simply. "That's what humans do. We don't give up on the people we choose." The word struck deep. For the first time in her life, she felt the weight of rejection lift, replaced by something new, belief. But beyond the nebula, the galaxy was already stirring. News of what had happened spread faster than light. Whispers turned into reports. Reports turned into fear. The council branded Elias a criminal, his name marked on every world. Ships were ordered to hunt him. Others whispered that the child he carried might hold power beyond even the houses. Some wanted her destroyed. Some wanted her captured, and yet not all voices agreed. In quiet corners of the galaxy, some spoke differently. A human chose a broken one. He saw worth where none else did. Perhaps humans see things the rest of us cannot. The seed of doubt spread. Back on the Dauntless, Lyra followed Elias everywhere. She helped with small tasks, asked endless questions about Earth, and listened wide-eyed to stories of human history. She learned of wars, of defeats, of victories, of how humans had risen again and again despite being weaker than most species. One evening, she asked softly, "Why do humans always keep standing up? Even when they lose?" Elias looked at the stars through the viewport. His voice was quiet, almost reverent. "Because every time we fall, we learn something new. And every time we rise stronger. That's our gift, not strength, not speed, not power. Persistence." Lyra thought about that long into the night. Maybe she too could rise stronger. Days later, the inevitable happened. Another warning came, this time not from a patrol ship but from the Council itself. A message was broadcast across every channel, every world. The Elder's silver eyes glared from the screen. "The human has defied us. He has taken the broken one, and now she unleashes unstable power. From this day, both are outlaws. Anyone who shelters them will share their punishment." Lyra watched the message with shaking hands. "They'll never stop," she whispered. Elias placed a hand on her shoulder. "Let them come. They don't know what you're capable of. And they don't know what it means when a human makes a promise." She looked up at him, hope flickering in her eyes. "And what promise is that?" "That you are not broken," Elias said firmly. "And you will never be alone again." The child's throat tightened. For the first time, she believed the words. Truly believed them. From that day on, she walked the ship not as a burden, but as someone chosen. The fear in her steps faded, replaced by quiet strength. She began to laugh freely, to learn eagerly, to dream of something she had never dared before, a future. And the galaxy watched. Some with anger, some with fear, and some with wonder. Because in choosing her, one human had done what no council, no house, no law had ever dared. He had looked at the unwanted and said, "You are enough." The legend began that day. The tale of the broken child who was not broken, and the human who refused to let her go. It spread across the stars, carried in whispers and stories, until even those who hated could not silence it. And though battles still lay ahead, though enemies still gathered, one truth burned brighter than any law. She was no longer the child who had been rejected 7 times. She was the child who had been chosen once, and sometimes, once is enough to change the galaxy.